right. Hope you are seeing from where I need to. So let's write my SQL query statements. That's the topic. My SQL query statements. My SQL query statements. Now, if you remember in our last class, I've defined what query statement is. And if you remember, one of the benefits or one of the function of MySQL is for writing what? Query what? Query what? Query language. Query language. For writing query language. Now, we have covered how to import our data we have done how to import, how to create database, right, through the workbench. We have also done how to create table in the database, right? And then the last thing we did was how to import data sets into the created database. So what it means is that as an analyst, once you are given the data to analyze with SQL, you now know the framework you need, which is what? Workbench. You know how to bring in your data here. And then what we are focusing on today is actually using SQL to manipulate data, which is the main aspect that we are expected to know as what? Analysts with SQL, who can speak SQL as a language. How do you use the language of SQL to what? To analyze, to draw insights, to simplify data. Now, the first query statement we are going to write is a statement to use a particular database. Right now, as we can see from my schema section, I have how many databases here? 3. I have Elo, I have Prosper. Now, how do I specify which of these database I am directing the manipulating code or languages or statement to? You have to write an SQL query statement to indicate which of the database you want to use. So in this case, I want to use Prosper. I don't know whether I have data set there. So how do I write the query statement? So you write now SQL query statement for using database. SQL, make sure you return it to SQL query statement for using database. That is the first query statement we want to write. So make sure you document your query statements, their syntax very well, because if it happens that you are selected to use SQL to defend your project, because each of the program must be represented, somebody must use any of them to defend. All of you cannot choose Power BI, either what? Excel. Some will work with what? Power BI, some will work with Python, some will work with SQL. So the way I am going to do it is that I'm going to throw numbers and then you will pick. So if you pick SQL, I advise you to document all your query statements we are writing, because these are your tools, what you are going to be using, what you are going to be demonstrating that day to us. So you must have written them down. I will show you how you can execute them that day, not that day you start writing them. So you must have written all the code down on the query interface. So all you need to do, you'll be telling us the analysis question you want to answer, you execute it, we get the results. You go to another one, you execute it, you get the results. So just in case you happen to be among those that will defend with SQL, this is how you are going to work. We can actually use comments here. I taught you how to use comments in what? In Python, right? If you want to use comments here, look at what you do. You type this. That is to the space. That this is SQL comments syntax. So as you are going to be copying now, copy this same thing. You must space. If you don't space, it's not a comment. After you have typed those two dash, you space. What are we doing now? I will say, okay, creating. So as you copy to your notes, you follow the same thing. Creating what? What SQL statement you want to write now? Creating what? SQL statements. Statements for what? For using what? For using database. Good. For using database. I don't know if I'm correct here. So let me see if I can expand it because of my screen here. So I can just come down. So that first line is what? A comment. So when you are writing, copy it like that and label it what? Comment in what? SQL.
Now to write the statements, I talked about keyword. Hope you have not forgotten. I mentioned what? Keyword. That when you are speaking, when you are constructing SQL what? Query statements, there is no statement you will write with SQL that will not require using one of the what? The keyword. One of them must be used. So the keyword I need here is what? Use. That is the keyword. What is keyword? Keyword are inbuilt what? Function. Right? Now followed by the what? The name of the database you want to use. There must be what? Space. Now I'm using what? Prosper. And I said at the end of the day, you must add what? Semicolon. It's just like closing it. Then to execute it, there are two options here. This one says execute the selected portion of the scripts or everything if what? There is no selection. This one says execute the statement under the keyword cursor, meaning if I click here now and I select this option, I'm executing only one line where my cursor is what? Is blinking. Now this is the point that I was making. If it happened to be you are going to define with SQL, you have written the SQL query statement for different tasks, different for answering different words, questions. Now you will just come, you will have used comments to write what? The question before the what? The query statement. Now you just come here because if you use this, you will end up executing everything for us. So we don't want that. As we are communicating, you are executing. So meaning that you just make sure that your cursor is blinking on that line where you have the code answering what? The question you are talking about. And then you use what? This. So what did we notice that happened as soon as we executed it? Prosper is what? Selected now. You can see that it's bolder now. And we have what? We have components. We have entities under what? Prosper. One of them is what? Table. Anytime you see this navigation arrow attached to table, it means there is a record. If there is no record, you won't see this arrow. In other words, that arrow means what? Expansion. Because right now, those things are what? Collapse. So open it up. Now, I don't want to go there and select the what? The table. Listen. Since you have already what? Defined the database, you want to manipulate its table or record in its table. Now, what I want to do now, look at this. If I don't want to use code to do what I want to do now. This is what you will have done. You come here and then you trace here. The name of the table is what? DA. Now I'm collapsing it because I'm going to use what? Query statement to call what? The table. So the next thing we are expected to know is, how do I know the number of tables in what? The database I'm working with. I told us the other day the diagram that I drew on the board. I created a box and I created what? 2 tables inside. Meaning that a single database can have us what? Unlimited what? Number of what? Tables. That is the reason why I said you should create one database and call in what? 3 what? Data sets which represent what? The table inside. That is to prove to you that what? It is possible for a single database to have what? Multiple what? Data sets inside. Now, the next query statement. So, that's the syntax for what? What was the task? That we should create, that we should write query statements that will enable us what? To use database. And that is the what? The syntax, which is solution. Now, another one again, right? Query statement, create query statement to display the list of tables in a database. So I will use the comment system again. So here I'm create what? SQL query statement to display table what? Lists. Table list. To display table list. Are you there now? To display what? Table list. Now, the idea is this. If you are given a website now, as data analyst, now, okay, visit this website, and when you get there, analyze a particular what? Data set, which represent what? A table. It is possible that they must have mentioned what? The name of the table that what? Go to our website and analyze our sales record. But remember, you have not seen the database before. You don't know the number of what? Tables that are inside. Because if you don't know the name of the table, it becomes difficult for you to what? To write SQL statement to display the record inside it. So the first thing is for me to write an SQL statement that will list out the number of tables inside the database. So I will not be using the name depending on the one and what I'm relating with. So the statement syntax is this. You will say select. So select is what? A keyword. Sorry, I'm not using select because I'm not interested in seeing the record. I just want to know the list of how many tables are in the database. That is what I'm interested in now. So now, I will now use the keyword called show. Show. That's the keyword I'm using. Show. Show. Followed by what? Tables. Followed by table. So both of them, they are inbuilt what? Keywords. So when you write this statement, what it will do when you execute it is to display, because you have already written a statement that says what? Use what? Prosper. That's the reason why we are not saying show table under prosper, because right now the statement knew that what? You are in what? Prosper. So display the tables inside what? The prosper. So if I execute it by pressing Control and Enter, that's the shortcut. If I don't want to come to this place, I can use what? Control plus what? Enter. So how many tables do we have there? I have, this is what? Table in what? Prosper. How many of them do we have here? 1, DA. Hello? Are you following?
Yes.
So now this is syntax to that question. What was the task again? Write an SQL statement to display what? The number of what? Tables in what? Database. So I want to execute like 4, then and go for commercial break. then you will not take your time to what? To replicate the same thing for me. So I have written how many statements now? 2. I'm going to 5. Make sure you document it because you take your time to go through it. Alright, so the next statement we want to write now. Now we have written statements to view the number of what? Table, right? Now I'm interested, supposing you pay attention to what I'm saying. Supposing you know our approach, our standard as data analyst, which I established all the way from Excel, that if you are given a data set that you know nothing about, what is the first step as data analyst before you start analyzing that data? What's the first step? You study. Now, this is a website. You don't even know what is inside the what? The DA. How can you answer any question when you have not seen the record? Because when you see the record, you now know the column, you know the what? The volume of what? The record there. From there, you will now be able to know, okay, I want to analyze what? City against what? Gross income. At the moment now, you don't even know whether there is city in that what? DA. You don't know whether there is what? Gross income. So the next query statement I want to write to find out, to check the content, the record inside that table is a statement to display what? The record from that DA table. The one we wrote now was to see the list of what? The table without seeing the record inside the table. So our third query statement is write an SQL query statement to display all the records in a table. Write an SQL what? Query statement. Just leave space for that and continue from the third one now. Write what? An SQL query statement to display all the records in a table. To display all the records in a table. Then in a bracket or note, right, this is necessary as a data analyst in order to study the record. So if you don't write this statement to see what is inside the table, you will not be able to access the record, not talk of what? Studying them. So there's a reason why we are writing each of these what? Statements. So don't execute anything yet. I said I want to write 5 different statements, and then I will allow you to what? To execute them. Now, the one we are writing now, comments. Comments is what? Statements. Good. Statements to display what? To display table what? All what? Records. All the record in the table. That's what I want to see. Now, look at the syntax. I will say select. Select. After select, I will put asterisk. That asterisk means what? All. All. Select. All. From. From is another word. Keyword. From followed by the name of what? The table that you want the record to come from. The name of the table from the previous code we wrote must have given us the name of what? The table which is what? DA. You see the reason why, if not that you have written that first one, there is no way you will have known what? The name of the table. It's still even showing here. DA. That is the name of what? The table. So I will space, I will say what? From what? DA. And then semicolon, and then execute that line by clicking here. So let's check now. These are the words. So your own now, it should be the assignments you did, so that you can have record. But it's like this Prosper. This is not where we uploaded. Because now I uploaded one that was more than there. So this is where you can actually change the limit. The limit I have now is what? 1000 by default. So you change your own to what? To this, so that when you start bringing record, you can see the reason why I told you what the highest SQL can take is what? 50,000. But by default, it will be programmed on what? 1,000. So you can increase the capacity from here. But fortunately, I don't have what? I have just one record inside that table that I selected. Now, let me reuse now. Let me use another lookup. Let me use another table now. We have log there. Maybe that is where I uploaded that my record. So I will change to what now? Use what? Use log, right? Use log, execute. So it has switched from Prosper now to what? log. Now I want to display what? I want to load the table under what? That log. Now you can give me the syntax. Don't look at your note. Just stay on the screen. Give me. Good to show, right? So I will write what? Show. Show what? That was the one you missed as you went up. Show what? Tables. Show tables. Under what? Under log database, right? Then I execute. Then how many do I go? This is where I have the data. So the table name, that is why before bringing the data sets here, you will have what? Rename it to a short name to avoid. But anyway, once I type the first two letters, when I want to type the name of the table, once I type the first two letters, it will drop it out. So now check now. I want to write an SQL statement that will display the content inside that table. Oh yeah, what is the syntax? Select asterisk from which table name? Cost. Look at this. It's not sensitive enough to show it. Okay, since we are seeing it, I want to see whether I can copy it. Okay, let me just complete it. Customer underscore, right? Underscore shopping underscore data set. No? Data CSV. Execute. These are the records. So I can take my time to what? To check everything. Check everything. You can view this in form of what? Form. Right now we are viewing it as what? Grid. That is table. So if I click here now, so you are now viewing it as what? Form editor. It's just like form. So you can also view it with another. So you have two ways of viewing your what? Your table as what? Grid or as what? Form. But the best one is what? As grid. So how many query statements we have written now? Now, remember I said before you can study the data, you must use this statement to display the content so that you can study the what? The headers. Right? So that you can study what? The headers. Now I know from here I have what? Invoice number, I have customer ID, I have gender, I have what? Age, I have category, I have quantity, I have price, I have payment what? Method. And that is all from this data set. Now, the fourth query statement now, right? I am asked to display from this data set now to select only customer ID and age. You know what we did now? We call everything inside the table. Now, I just want to display what? Only the column, only two column what? Values. The customer ID and what? Age, for example. You want to compare them. So to write that, that is our first statement. Write it down, which is a write an SQL what? Query statement to select only some data columns. Only some data columns and value from a table. Only some data column and values from the table. Now look at the way I'm going to write it. Look up. So I'm going to write what? Select. Select. No, because we are not calling all. Select, you mention those two columns. Select customer what? ID. I think it should be here. Let me see. Customer. Okay, it's here. Let me just pull it. In some cases, it should have dropped it. Customer underscore what? ID, comma, and then what? Age. Follow the case. Then, from, you must tell us the table where all these two items will be cut from. We are not using asterisk now because it's not everything we want to pull from that table. From the what? The table name, which is what? I wish you can just bring it. It's here now. Let me even. This is it now, eh? Yes. What did you see now? It picks only what? These two columns. So you can see that SQL is faster than you want to do this now, you better do it. So, hope you are writing your syntax, so because once I've done the fifth one now, I will now go for commercial break and allow you to put them into practice. So let's say you are managing a company database and they just ask you, the boss can pass, okay, please, I want to view only the customer's name. Maybe there's a particular customer they are looking for. You call only what? That column. If I want to call only one column, what do you think I will have done? Supposing it's only the age that we want to see. Just say what? Select what? Age. Sharp, sharp. Now, look up. Now, we now find out that we don't have customer names here, right? In that data set, we don't have customer name. Do you have customer name? Now, I want to show you something. You know the code that we executed to know the headings, are we? What was the code? To know the heading, to display the table content, right? This is it here, have you? So I will just go there and use this, meaning at the moment now. So you can see how you can re-execute. You don't need to write again, except you just want to write again. In as much you have written that, just go to that line. That is why we have this option. That execute this line for me again. So I can come back to that last one now and execute it again. Now, we don't have, I was asking if we have customer name. The only way of identifying them is what? ID, right? Okay. Now let's assume that, look up, I want to display only records where category is what? Clothing. In other words, I want to see only what? Clothing what? Record. That is the fifth one I want to write before I allow you to what? To execute all of them for me. So what I'm going to do, since I have category here, I'll come here. This is my collapse screen. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay. So now, write the statement down because you are going to be looking at them to practice. from the sales inventory, display only transaction where customer purchase only clothing as products. Where customer purchase only what? Clothing as products. Where customer purchase what? Only what? Clothing as what? Products. Now look up. So select, if you have written the question or the task, select. Who can tell us what we are going to do? Select, are we putting from that asterisk?
No.
Are we putting it?
Well, yeah, but we want to check all of them.
Good. We will now use condition. We pick all, then the condition will limit it from what? Picking all. So we are going to do this. Select from what? The table name, which is what? Probably the one I pasted the other time, right? Now, let me break it. You can actually break it if you don't want it to be on a straight line. Statements will continue. Now here, select from this, where is a keyword. This is the condition now. You know when we did some if, so in SQL, where, when, or they are conditional what? Keyword. So once I click here, where the column that is responsible for what? The product list, where you want to display only what? Clothing from. Where, what do you think I should put here? Category. Because it is under category that you have what? The clothing that you are looking for. So category, the way it is there. Category. Where category is equals to, if it's value, you can say well greater than, maybe like a profit. Where category is equals to, that is string. So you have to put it inside what? Quotation. Then you check the spelling of what? The clothing. The first letter is what? Capital letter. Then you can now come here. After this, where this is this, then you end the word. Since you break the line, you must not put the semicolon there before you press enter. So now, I execute. If you check here now, under category, they are only what? Clothing now. Only clothing. So write your statements, and then your classwork now. One of choose your data set. Answer all the question again from 1. Yeah, sure, where are you? Select asterisk from, right?
Yeah.
Then customer, that is the name of the table. Then I press enter if you want to. You now write where category is equals to clothing.